Yep. Welcome to the Tech Growth Show. Super happy to have Rogers on here today from PsySonics. Rogers, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Can you give me a little bit of background? What actually motivated you to start PsySonics?
I was in treatment. I'd been diagnosed with PTSD, and before my career in the music industry, I was in the military, and I had been, after a long time, went and started to go to therapy to try to sort some things out, and I was eventually diagnosed with PTSD, which led me to a trial about a year and a half ago that was run by the FDA here in the US, and it was using MDMA to treat, but commonly known as ecstasy, to treat PTSD. And there was an organization, and is an organization, called MAPS, MAPS. It's an acronym. And they were running the program. There were quite a few years into it, and I was part of the very end of that. Mm-hmm. And there's an organization near where I live in North Carolina called the Pearl Institute, and they were a part of the program. And they had been approved by the FDA to treat, primarily they were looking for veterans because of our paper trail, basically, and verification of your service and also treatment once you get out through the administration. And through that process, I discovered that it was very helpful. The MDMA was incredibly helpful to treat my condition. But during that process, I found that the music, which plays a really important part, probably 1/3 as equal importance to the medicine itself and the therapists that are there with you. I found that the music that was being used was very disruptive. Some of it was fantastic, and some of it was very disruptive, and so it was just kind of hit or miss. And through the entirety of it, I kept getting drawn away from the trauma that was there to focus on in the treatment, and off on, hearing these different drum beats or these different, tempos and harmonic structure and that kind of stuff. And I found out as I was going through the program that because I brought it up, and hey, this is, some of this stuff's not working for me, and it's really distracting. And my therapists were having to deal with it as well. They weren't focused all their energy on me. They were focused on having to change the music. And so I found that it was a commonly known issue that this is a problem we've had, but we really don't know how to fix it. So I essentially asked myself, if not, why not? Like, if this is the best that they have, then maybe there's something I can do because of my background in music and my background in sound, and my background with trauma, and my background with therapy. And so all of those roads it wasn't something I was looking for, but all those roads came together, and maybe I can make this a little better so that the next person that comes after me maybe has a better experience. Maybe their treatment is 5% better, 1% better, whatever. That, for sure, if I can help be a part of that, then that's something I want to be a part of. And there you go. And that's what really drove me to this.
Okay, very nice. And how do you actually see the stigma around, psychedelics changing in the broader sort of healthcare landscape, and how has that been affecting your business?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think first and foremost, the stigma that's been there for so long around mental health is really changing, especially with younger generations that are coming up, and the idea of going to therapy and that kind of stuff is it's more openly talked about. It's more openly accepted. It's not as much of a weakness as it has been in the past. And so I think first and foremost, that change has really helped open the door for some of these other things. So this work around psychedelics has been going on since the 1950s, 1960s. It got a really bad reputation, as things do, and with party scenes and all this kind of people basically using it for recreational types of things. But that doesn't take away from the potential power it has to really change your mind, change your neural pathways, the way that your brain thinks. And so I think that that openness to mental health in general has really helped soften the rough road that's been laid out for psychedelics. And this was used in the U.S. anyway. It was used all the way up to the very early 1980s, very successfully by, I believe, over 2,000 therapists in for anxiety, trauma, couples therapy, because of the way that MDMA, and specifically MDMA, works to really shut down 95 up to 95% of your amygdala. Don't quote me on the numbers. I'm not a doctor, but
Sure.
it's these are pretty close. These numbers are. So if you can imagine your partner being able to discuss with you the thing that usually triggers both of you without any triggers being there, because this medicine has really shut down a lot of those things around fear and defensiveness and this kind of stuff. So, and past trauma. And so you're able to not only listen with, but you're listening with empathy and compassion, which
Hmm.
a really hard thing to get to if you're defensive, if your guard's up. And it's the same thing with just any kind of trauma that you're trying to heal, just by yourself. And so I think that the reality of that and the openness to other paths has, like I said, it's been smoothed out. What has come before helps. Regular talk therapy, psychologists and psychiatrists, and the medication that's been used, it does help. I spent over a decade in talk therapy, and it was very helpful, and on medications such as Wellbutrin and Lexapro. And those things were very helpful for me. So I want to be sure not to present this as a pejorative statement against traditional therapy and against traditional therapeutic medication, because that stuff I found incredibly helpful and really helped me climb out of a very dark inner place.
Hmm.
And so, but this was, I'll give you an example. I had to get off of those medications in order to be in this trial,
Yeah.
with regular urinalysis tests and all of these things. It was a 6 week, almost 2 month process to actually start the program,
Yeah.
and I had to taper off of my medication. And what I found was, when the medication wasn't there, all of the issues that I had been dealing with for 30 years were still there. None of
Yeah.
it was healed. It helped, but it didn't heal. And
Yeah.
I think that's the big difference. I found a great deal of understanding in talk therapy, gained a great deal of understanding with myself and with others, and I think that without that, I would not have, my psychedelic therapy would not have been as successful had I not had prior therapy. And even the doctors that I worked with, Raymond Turpin and Kim Skelton, both from the Pearl Institute, they would agree with that those things really helped prime me to have a successful experience in psychedelic assisted therapy.
Okay. No, it's a very good story, and I think it is important. Like, it's not this one thing is good, everything else is bad, as with many things in life. It's the combination of that that's sort of useful, I
Yeah, I
guess.
think
Okay, go
so.
ahead.
I really believe that, and there's no one magic pill, there's no one magic anything, and it all takes work. It takes an incredible amount of work, just like anything else. And yeah, so I think that's really important to point out.
For sure. And at this stage, like, what do you feel like has been the biggest challenge in order to scale your company's adoption across different clinics, clinicians, and so
Yeah,
on?
I see the biggest challenge in education, or what I like to call knowledge transfer.
Okay.
One of the big observations that I've had stepping into this is that uh, uh, for the most part, therapists are not music experts,
Yeah.
and 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 DJs are not therapy experts. There's a
Yeah.
lot of really good music and really good playlists that are being curated by former DJs, current DJs, and by therapists. So
Yeah.
stuff that really does work. But overall, it's still a little bit of an uncertainty. A little bit, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? And I think that one of the biggest problems that I face as I step into this, and I'm I'm about almost a year into this now, from coming up with the idea, getting my MVP set, and really stepping out into this world after establishing the business,
Mm.
is that knowledge transfer, that hey, there's a better way. This
Mm-hmm.
some of it might be good and some of it might not, and it's taking you hours to create it. There might be a better way that allows which is my sound, that allows the patient to focus 100% of their energy and their mental focus on the
Mm.
trauma, the thing they're there to heal.
Yep.
And that, by doing that, it also allows the therapist to focus 100% of their energy on the patient and what
Mm-hmm.
those needs are, instead of focusing on the music, the playlist, these kind of things. So I think
Yeah.
that getting the word out is going to be the hardest thing. And I think that my biggest competitor is Spotify.
Yeah.
And Spotify is incredibly useful. It's ease of use, it's cheap, all of these things, but it's also, there's an uncertainty there that comes with playlists, and changing from one genre of music to another, from one tempo to another, from one harmonic structure, key signatures. Are there vocalizations in this or not? And is that going to trigger a patient who maybe had sexual trauma? Like, these things are issues that have come up in the testing that we've done.
Yes.
And yeah, so those are big challenges to overcome.
Okay. And you say the education part of it is the biggest challenge. Like, what have you tried so far in order to try and educate those clinics on this?
Well, right now, I'm in the process of running a trial that
Okay.
includes about 300 clinicians and clinics,
Mhm.
and we're gathering as much data as we can from that. The the first sound that I created was actually used with patients after, in the same program that I was in through the FDA,
Yeah.
and with great success. It was really surprisingly, because we were just trying to develop the MVP at that point, but it was really a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And one of the patients actually had a lot of issue with vocalizations, and she had been sexually traumatized as a kid. And
Mhm.
I've had the opportunity, and honor to speak with her about it after the fact, about how the sound that I created really helped her focus,
Mhm.
and there was no fear of what's coming next, because the silence in between the songs and the things have changed. And so I think that getting firsthand information from early adopters has been
Yeah.
that has helped most. And this trial that I'm running right now, which will conclude in June of 2025,
Mhm.
is really going to be, I think, the most helpful in gathering information, making changes of anything that's not working. How can this be better? Like, a lot of
Yeah.
those, really, really what I want to find out. What's working, yes, is important, but what's more important to me is what's not working, and how this thing could be better, not only for the patient but also for the clinician. How
Yeah.
the UI can be better, all of this stuff, so that I can gain as much traction as possible, and provide the best product to these patients and the clinicians.
Mhm. And then once you essentially you finish up in June, the trial, June, July, you finish up the trial, and then from there, like, how do you envision? I know it's like a little whiles out. How do you envision scaling from there?
Well, my hope is that through the adoption of the the platform, it's a SaaS business, B2B. So we're going after clinicians and clinics at first.
Mhm.
And once we gain a found, not only in the U.S., but we're going after clinicians and clinics in other places where these things are already legal. Basically, any country that follows British common law is a target for us. So Australia, this kind of thing. Um, and with that, that's going to give me a lot of data to then go, and I'm going to do it in a very personal way. I mean, instead of the typical send out a bunch of emails and hope for the best, I'm actually going to go to these clinics, as many as I can at first,
Yep.
to really, because this thing is very personal to me, and I want to get that across.
Yeah.
And want to do. I know that that's not. It's not scalable. It's completely against the idea of how to do this efficiently.
Uh-huh.
But I going to be the best thing if I can get in the room with clinicians and at clinics. I think it's going to help. there's going to be a launch in June at a conference that's happening in Denver, Colorado, called the Psychedelic Sciences Conference.
Okay.
I think it was 15 or 20,000 people there in 2023. This is the next iteration of it in June of 2025, and that'll be the official launch of the company. Although we're officially established and out there selling and stuff. But I think as a SaaS business, the scalability is going to be the ability to scale is going to be pretty easy. Yep. but yeah. I think it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of personal treatment and personal kind of attention, if you will, to the first people that are on board, and hopefully it'll catch on from there once the word gets out and we have successes with clinics and their patients, and they see that this is a better way. I think it'll pick up, and I'm very confident that it's going to be successful. But my hope is that it's slow.
Yeah,
it may be a strange thing to say, but I hope that it's a slow rise to scale.
Okay.
That I can make as many mistakes as I need to make this the best product possible on the way up to that. So I believe that failure is my greatest teacher, our greatest teacher. And so there's going to be, I'm sure, many iterations of the UI, of the background framework of the app, and so we want to make sure that that's as smooth as possible and as easy to use as possible for our clients. And my hope is that I'll have time to do that while it grows.
For sure. And what you're talking about on the personal side of things, I mean, you should always start by doing the unscalable things, like especially when you're starting out. Like it's always best practice. How much do you think brand is going to play into the success, like on your end? Like how much do you think that's going to play into it?
I think it always plays a certain amount. I'm not really sure. I've put a lot of thought into that. I'm not fully sure because I'm not competing with 10 other products that are very similar.
Yeah.
I'm the thing that I'm doing is very unique, and the sound that I've created is very unique, so much so that I've filed a process patent for it. And so I think that a great product always needs great branding. So I think that it's important, but it's not as important as if I were trying to go up against Apple or other computer companies. And I think that my focus right now is making the best product possible, and I'll bring in some of the experts on that I can find on that for branding. But I think it is going to be important, but it's
especially when you're talking up against Spotify. Like in some sense, you mentioned like Spotify is your competitor.
That's a really good point. I mean, I think that's why the personal treatment is going to be really important, and really trying to get really solid lifetime customers in place is going to be so important to this, to really win over that crowd of the ease of use of Spotify. And that's going to be hard. It's definitely going to be easy. And once it's established and I'm able to cross over into a B2C type situation, I think it's going to become even more important at that point. And hopefully we'll have time to grow to that, to really have solid branding around that kind of stuff.
Okay. And so it's B2B. And I mean, they always say sell to rich people first and then go from there, because you need the least amount of units to get to whatever revenue goal you have. I mean, and the revenue isn't always the goal, but I mean, at some point we are in business. Sell the least possible units to get to X, and then to scale and to include the downsell, include the lower ticket, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, for sure. It's to be clear, I want this to get out and help as many people as possible. In order to do that, I need to make money at it. I need to make. So it's those things are definitely tied together for me. Absolutely. And I agree with everything you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, given that, where do you think is the single biggest opportunity for growth in the next 1 or 2 years within the company, or for the company, I guess?
I think the biggest opportunity is in ketamine treatment, actually.
Okay.
MDMA is only legal in a couple of countries, and ketamine, there are, I believe, a little over 4,000 clinics or clinicians here in the U.S. that are doing it.
Yep.
And so I think that's where my focus is right now, and our focus as a company is in ketamine. We have a sound solution for ketamine. We also have one for psilocybin,
Okay.
which is legal in a few states and a few cities.
Yeah.
But I think that the growth on right now, the focus is to establish the company.
Mhm.
And the other area, and then allow these things to grow as legislation kicks in and these kind of things around MDMA, around psilocybin, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest areas and the biggest opportunities that we have is through the Veterans Healthcare Administration because of
Okay.
my military background and my status as a disabled veteran. I'm moved, whether it's warranted or not, I'm moved to the front of the line for contracts.
Okay.
And we're a federal contractor within the U.S. Officially, and so one of the big goals in the first year is to land a national contract with the Veterans Healthcare Administration for all of their hospitals.
Yeah.
And they're already doing ketamine. They are doing trials for psilocybin
Uh-huh.
in a few locations, and they just got a grant for I believe it was $1.5 million from the government to run MDMA studies. And so it's a huge step. It's the first time anything like that has happened since the 1960s for the VA, within the VA
Yeah.
system. So it's a huge change of events for them, and
Mhm.
I believe for us as a company. And if we can land that contract, that's going to give us an incredible foundation to then go off and get private sector clients. So that's probably the biggest focus right there.
Okay. Got it. So you got to get the big B to G, then it goes B to B, then it goes B to C.
For sure.
And how do you actually measure the impact of your music, like in these trials? How does that work?
Yeah, it's an awesome question. So I've learned a great deal in the last year and a half about all of this, things that I didn't know, maybe didn't want to know or have any curiosity about, because I've
Yeah.
spent a whole professional career in recording studios and working with artists, songwriters, that kind of stuff. So what I've discovered is the way that trials are run, the first and foremost thing is the do no harm. So we need to establish that the sound that we've created is not doing any harm. And the way that's what I would consider harm is like this patient that I was able to talk to that used my sound. Harm in the sense of the vocalizations that were used in these playlists that were used in the FDA trial.
Yeah.
It harmed her in the sense that it brought up these triggers of past trauma. And
Mhm.
so it's not as easy black and white, like, oh, this made you sick. It's
Yeah.
more these other emotional things. But in the
Mhm.
context of this kind of treatment, I think it applies. And is it the other questions that we're asking that question, the other questions that we're asking of the patients, very simple questions like, did you find that this was better? Were you able to focus? And what does better mean? Were you able to focus more of your attention? Were you distracted at all? These kind
Mhm.
of things. And if we can show even the smallest percentage that it allowed me to focus all of my energy on this. Yes, I liked it more. That kind of stuff. That's all that we're going for.
Yeah.
And because it's that saying about being 1% better every day is a true thing. Like I just want
Yeah.
to be better. And if I can create something and we can create something as a company that makes treatment better in
Mhm.
any form, then why not? Like why not go after that and try to make it as good as possible? So that's the goal and what we're doing on the questions. The questions for the clinicians are a little bit different. Was it easier for you to use? Was it did you find your observation of the patient? Did you find that the patient was did the patient make any comments about the sound? Did they want to fast forward or slow down or any of this kind of stuff? And questions around confidence. And confidence is such an important thing around this that I have confidence as a clinician that my that my patient is going to get the best experience possible, and I'm not going to have to fast forward through a playlist to find the right song and all that stuff. And so they're outside of this treatment, it may sound like kind of hard things or kind of random things to think about, but inside of the treatment, it's super important and vital. Yeah.
I can totally see that. I can totally see that. And you you know, you started this business a year ago, and it you hadn't done business really before independently. Is that right? Like, no, I mean music, but like completely different venture here, right? So
Oh
like,
yeah, I'd never done a SaaS business. I mean, I used computers all of my professional career. I've used
yeah.
Apple computers,
And
and
and what would you say? What would you say to someone who's like maybe in that position and they're thinking about starting the business, the hot side hustle, the whatever? Like, what would you say to them? To essentially Rogers, 2 years ago before you even knew about this, what would you say to that person who's uncertain on the fence?
yeah, jump off the fence.
There you
Fence.
go.
And if it's something that you think about a decent amount of time during the
Hmm.
day, and you think you have a good idea, then
Yeah.
and absolutely build in the fact that you're going to make mistakes and
Yep.
you're going to have failures, but welcome those failures. And if you build that into your plan, I think that just guaranteed I'm going to fail
Hmm.
here and there, but I'm going to learn from it. Then I would absolutely encourage them to get off the fence, even if they've never touched a computer, but they're interested in programming, they're interested in creating an app, they're
Yeah.
interested in that kind of stuff. Then do it. Uh,
Yeah.
and and so uh, I think that there's an incredible amount of tools, an incredible amount of very capable people that are out there that can help
Hmm.
you. And also, yeah, I mean that leads to the other thing. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because
Yeah.
that's I mean, I've been around computers since I was in college, but I didn't know anything about building an app, anything about setting up a SaaS based company or any of that
Yep.
kind of stuff. No clue at all whatsoever. And I'm still playing catch up on
No.
acronyms.
There
So
you go. There you go. Yeah, no, funny enough, the reason I started my business, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but it really, if I boil it down, it came down to one YouTube video.
yeah,
It's like, what?
yeah,
What?
yeah, absolutely. I started getting inclinations about this treatment from a couple of friends, like, hey, have you heard about this?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I want to look into this. And from my wife, like, hey, there's this new treatment, there's this new program that the FDA is running this trial. Maybe you should try it out. And my thought was, because I dealt with nightmares, night terrors for a long time. And my thought was, wow, if it could make me, literally, I thought to myself, okay, I've never done psychedelics. I've never done caffeine and beer were my my vices of choice, right? So I'd
Yeah.
never done any drugs like that. But if it can make me 1% better, if there's one night where I know that I'm not going to have a nightmare, that would be a gain. It would be a small victory in that day. And
Yeah.
so why wouldn't I try this? Like, what do I have to lose? Because I'm still, after 12, 13 years of therapy, I'm still the same. I
Yeah.
understand more, but I'm still the same. I'm still not. I'm still there. So it didn't heal me in the way that I hoped,
Mm.
and and had been told. I've been told that this condition is incurable. So, and maybe it is. I don't know. But I tell you, this treatment has really changed me. It's changed the way that I think, and uh, and I think, to your point, like, all it takes is that one little kernel, that one little idea. Maybe it's a YouTube video, maybe it's something that a friend says, or whatever, and it sparks a thing. I know that you come from a sports background, and this is
Yeah.
something very different than being out catching wind and doing all the stuff that you've done in the past. and
Yeah.
and so it's inspiring. We are not defined by the things that we do. We are not defined by the mistakes that we've made in the past. You are not defined by the Olympics and what you've done in the past.
Yeah.
helps you. It's part of your story,
Yep.
but it doesn't define you. And I think that we're stopped sometimes by well, who am I if I'm not a music producer? What are my friends going to think, or whatever? And the reality is, the people that really love you, they could care less. They just want you to be happy and healthy. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, who am I if I'm not that? And so that's why I say, get off the fence and just try it. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past, or who you think you were in the past. It's about trying to find the next thing and find your purpose. And I think we really need that, especially as men. We really need to have some kind of purpose. And
Yeah.
and this is really, it really drives me to,
Yeah.
try to create something that's better. And hopefully I'll, get there and make many failures along the way. But yeah, I think it's inspiring for looking at your story and looking back at other people's stories who have made these huge changes. And now, I mean, look, I never would have met you otherwise, right? Never would have.
No.
And this is so cool, like this random thing that happened, and all these roads came together for me. And now I'm sitting in to talk to you, and it's really encouraging. And for those of you that don't know, we had an awesome conversation the other day, and it was like, wow, this is a dude I could hang out with, and I never would have met him otherwise had he not started this podcast. And so I think that's the big takeaway, is that we can change our future. We can change the road, the path that we're on.
And one of the biggest things, and we can end on this, they survey people who are on the deathbed, about to die, whatever. What are their biggest regrets? It's not taking action on certain things they could have done. And so when you're talking about the fence, it's like, yeah, just
100%.
And it's also like, on the fence is the worst place to be. And there's this analogy of, there's the devil on one side, there's God on the other, and then there's a fence in between. And the God is telling him to come to this side, the devil's telling him to come to this side, and then the person just stay on the fence. I'm not going to choose either. I'm just going to stay on the fence.
Yeah.
And he thinks he's good, and then he wakes up in hell, and the devil says, "On the fence is mine."
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I haven't heard that before, but I think it's action. Action creates action. And even if it's, when I'm looking at teammates and people I want to work with, and I've always done this, I got from my dad, that my dad always told me, choose the people that'll take action. Even if it's the wrong choice, you'll know right away it's the wrong choice. And then you can make adjustments. And then you're not going to make that choice. It's like a win, right?
Yeah.
Because a small victory, like, okay, we don't need to make that choice, because that's the thing. I'll leave you with this about the and about what we're talking about here. Is something my dad told me. My dad spent 22 or 23 years on nuclear ballistic missile submarines in the U.S. Navy. And I asked him before I went in the military, like, hey, just looking for these kind of big life, what's the secret of life? And I asked him, what did you learn all that time and all the places you went to and everything that what is it that you learned? And he said, peace of mind is the softest pillow. And that's getting off the fence and doing the thing that is eating at you and scratching at you. And it helps you find peace of mind. That's what this treatment has helped me find. And it helps you get past those things so that you're not on that deathbed. And death is coming for all of us. Oh, yeah. And probably sooner than you think. And so what Shakespeare said is the debt that all must pay, right? So it's coming for you anyway. So, try to knock off those things, try to check those things off the list, because you're going to be able to sleep better at night. And when you do have, when you are on that deathbed and hopefully you're able to, have that conversation, you're not going to have a lot of these regrets. We don't want to be in that place.
Absolutely. Well,
peace
Roger,
of mind, softest pillow.
I like it. We're going to end on that sleepy note. Roger, thank you very much for coming here. Where is the best place people can contact you if they're wanting to get in touch, learn more about this program? Maybe it's a clinician listening to this, whatever. Like, where could they learn more?
Yeah, so if you go to PsySonics.co, so that's PSYSONICS.co. You can go to PsySonics psysonics.co, and you can get information. You can email me directly. And my email address actually is Rogers, ROGERS, at psysonics.co. And feel free to reach out anytime. Happy to talk with anybody and talk more about it. And also, if you're looking to do something, just anything out there, and looking for someone to bounce an idea off of, hit me up. Be happy to talk to you.
There we go. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's an honor. Talk to you soon.
Thanks.